Intuition is this silent knowing that sits inside each of us. How we access it may be different for each and every one of us, but we all have this magical ability. All of us, male, female, non binary, all of us. I have found that my intuitive abilities increase as I take care of myself and I listen to and follow my inner guidance. If you have spent years ignoring your inner voice, it may feel like intuition is some fancy thing that is either hocus pocus or something only a few people have. The reality is, we all have an intuitive voice. I remember when I had been at a job I didn't like for a long time. I was new in my career and I needed to be in this job for a few years to gain experience and move into a new position. So I worked in education. I remember a friend had come to visit. It was early September and I had taken a few days off to spend time with her. When she left, I realized that I was finished living for the breaks. I worked hard and only lived a life outside of work when I was on holiday. So I had this inner knowing that my time for living my life for summer breaks or winter break was over. My intuition told me, time to look for a new job. You may be wondering, how did your intuition tell you this? I remember that day perfectly. I was sitting at my desk, sensing into my body, and I felt this stillness and this knowing inside of me that I was done living for the breaks. That summer, I had went to China and taught at a summer camp. And I remember when I was there teaching, my heart felt tight and my stomach hurt. I thought, isn't this interesting? Here I am, just teaching for fun and having this incredible experience, and my body is sending me messages that this is not it. I noted that for this period in my life, I felt done with having a job in education. I listened to and took note of my feelings. A few weeks later, I realized I felt okay on breaks when I was paying attention to my body. But I was done feeling okay only when I was not working. That was no way to live. When that feeling came through that I was done living for the breaks, I took some time in contemplation. I was still and allowed there to be silence. And in the quiet and the stillness, I posed the question of what else could I do if not being a school counselor? The answer I heard within myself was a surprise. It was work, do community counseling. This scared me as I wasn't sure if I'd be able to go from being a school counselor to a community counselor, but I trusted the answer I got. I wasn't sure if it would work out, but I started to take the steps necessary before I knew if it would work out. I worked a busy job and it was vital for me to be able to give all that I had to this job. So I only had 1 hour a week to build my resume, but I took that time. I took 1 hour from September to December each week and worked on my goal of writing my resume and then finding a job. So then that January time came and I applied for jobs. My friends had helped me with the resume. My friends had helped me with the cover letters. I got help. And when I began to apply for jobs, it was so interesting. Here I feared I wouldn't be able to find any jobs, and I had 3 interviews. But when I was on my way to interview number 1, I got behind a license plate that said, "Too far." When I tuned into my body, something didn't feel right. After the second interview, I called and asked for my name to be removed for consideration. I also interviewed for 2 other positions. One was for a hospital and the other for a local agency. I was so excited about the hospital job and going through the motions with the other interview. But the interesting thing was my interview with the local agency went smoothly. I went in for the first interview and they said, They would love to have me come in for a second interview the following week. So I went in for the second interview and was told I was being recommended for hire. When I interviewed for the hospital, they were very interested in me, and I was very interested in them. But due to how it looked on paper, I thought this would be the perfect job, the hospital job. However, I had heard negative things about the local agency, so I was hesitant to want to work for that company. But here's what I learned about intuition from that experience. That I had my heart so set on the hospital job that I was not paying attention to what would be best for me. In the end, I didn't get the hospital job. They shared that I was their number one candidate, but they went with someone that spoke 2 languages because they had a large Spanish-speaking population. I was crushed. After the experience was over, I learned when you are following your intuition, things often flow. Yes, you have to put the work into it. You sometimes have to go through a couple hurdles, but it flows. The process at the local agency was so smooth. Ultimately, the local agency was an incredible blessing to my life. I loved my job, which was my first goal in finding a new job. I earned more than I could have ever dreamed of making as a therapist. I worked with amazing people. My intuition led me to the ideal outcome for that period in my life. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.